Good morning, everyone. Britt Simon here. I thought I'd take some time to go through your questions this morning. I'll take your questions live. Anything on DV lottery topics for DV 25, 26, whatever you want. So if any of you are around and have some questions, by all means, feel free to ask me. Okay, so updates this week. Obviously, we've got the visa bulletin, the final visa bulletin for DV 25. That's sad, to be honest with you. I was very disappointed, as I think I explained previously. I was very disappointed with the final numbers. They are deliberately going to waste several thousand visas. There's no chance. Some of you have asked, will they run out of visas? No, they won't run out of visas for sure. You know, it's very sad just to waste visas like that. Okay, so let's take some questions. Zakaria, any chance of mine DV25 EU 28K? No chance whatsoever. The numbers won't change. The final visa bulletin has been issued, so there's absolutely no way they can reach your numbers. You know, that's it, I'm afraid. The year is over for you. The chance is gone. So I'm sorry. Morning, Philip. You're straight on there. Not doing the shopping on Saturday morning? Come on. Good luck for everyone. Still in the meat grinder. Philip, it's very, very messed up that you didn't get a chance. You and your lovely family deserve a chance and would be an addition to America. And that always breaks my heart, frankly, when we do that sort of thing. Just terrible. But anyway, glad to see you this morning. Okay, any news or updates on Brits being disadvantaged by this year's DV draw? The lawsuit has been filed. The government now have 60 days to respond, and that time will run out on August the 15th. We filed the lawsuit, I think, on June 6th or 7th, but it took about a week or so for the serving of the papers, and that's the point at which the 60 days starts counting from, as I understand it. I may have that wrong, but so Curtis has filed that. The proof is absolutely overwhelming. It's just very obvious what they did now. Looking back, I can understand what they did. There's no doubt in my mind that they're going to have to admit what they've done. The next question is how we remedy that. And I've discussed before a couple of different remedies, none of which needs to affect anybody else in Europe or anywhere else. Cuban selectees for DV26 will be affected by our lawsuit to an extent. So in the lawsuit, as part of my declaration, as part of my evidence, I've pointed out that I've become aware of DV 2026 Cuban selectees. Now that shouldn't exist. Cuba was ineligible for DV 26. So anybody that was selected in DV 26 from Cuba shouldn't be allowed to be a winner. But they were, and that's indicative of the problem that happened in the draw process. That's related to why the UK was left out. So Cuban selectees, because of my lawsuit, will be discussed and will be disqualified, but they would have been disqualified anyway. And also they're under the travel ban. So I expect to get some sort of, anger from Cuban selectees in a sense. They'll look to blame me, but they shouldn't have been eligible to enter the lottery in the first place. It was only the government screw up that allowed that. And so then when they went for those green card interviews, they'd have been wasting their money, frankly, because they couldn't be approved. So, and also because of the travel ban. So I don't feel bad about that. But anyway, that's where we're at, Marquez. Please tell me 2024. 2024 is over. It's finished with. Can they add passport or money in lottery 2027? No. The rules that were going to be implemented to ask for money or to expect money from DV entries, that has been removed off the table. That's not part of the bill that was passed now. right? So the bill is passed, but that wording regarding DV lottery was taken out before it went into the before it was finally voted on, before it became law. The passport rule could be re-implemented by this government. They tried implementing a passport rule before, but it needs time for them to do that, and that's why it was struck down in a lawsuit before. So I don't think that they're not going to have it for DV27, probably not for DV28 either. We'll see. There's not enough time for them to implement that now before DV27 entry period. So they've already blown that. Okay. 2025 AF54K Cotonou, waiting patiently. Good luck. Only greetings from the city of love, says Stefan. 1 month until the interview for me and my family, 2 kids heading to Philly. Philly? Why Philly? You know how cold it gets in Philadelphia? Oh my God. But okay, Stefan, you know what you're doing. It's a great city in some other ways, but yeah, it gets cold in the winter. When will 2026 2NL start to be sent? In about 4 weeks' time, you'll start to see 2NLs. Maybe a little bit less than that now. Basically, the cadence is, and I'll say this probably about 280 times in the next 12 months, probably more than that. The cadence is that the visa bulletin is released every month between the 8th and the 15th of the month, sometime in that window. When the visa bulletin is released, and the next one is for DV26, when that's released, within a few hours to a few days after the visa bulletin, we start to see 2NLs coming out. And so that could be as early as, let's say, the 9th or 10th of the month. And 2NLs can continue until the end of the month and even into the next few days of the following month in some cases. Okay. Samuel, please be blessed. Got my interview in Doha. Good. Now in Seattle. Be blessed. Really God sent. You're really God sent, says Samuel. Well, congratulations. Welcome. Good luck in Seattle. How can I tell the KCC have already processed my case? There's only one way, and that's to email them. You have to email them. You give them all of the data that allows them to identify you, which is your full name, your date of birth in the correct format, which is month, day, year for American date of birth, and your full case number, including the leading zeros. You give them those 3 pieces of information and a very simple email saying, please let me know if my case, if my DS-260 is processed, and they will email you with a standardized template letter that says you're either processing, which means your case is not processed yet, or you get one of a couple of other email templates, which means your case is processed. Okay. Mantha, people only come here to get what they want. Fair, but how is the big man doing? I hope you cherish your days and stay happy. Yes, I'm doing great. Thanks, Mantha. I hope everything's okay with you. Do I have to apply for DV26? What does that mean? Do you have to apply? Let's see. Is this a continuation? I don't know. I don't know why you're asking me that randomly out of the blue. I don't know what that means. Oh, okay. Oh, I see. You were the first person about EU 28K. Yeah, you mean DV27. So your DV25 win for EU 28K is completely useless to you now. There's no advantage. It doesn't give you any advantage in any future lottery. Your chance of entering and being selected in the lottery is the same every year, whether you've won before, whether you've entered 28 times before. It doesn't matter. You've got the same chance of selection each and every year. Okay. The only things that you can do to make a difference is, number one, enter the lottery, and number two, make sure your information is accurate, and thirdly, and probably most importantly, make sure your photo meets the requirements. I've got some news coming about that third point, because the requirements are, in my opinion, are very picky. And what would normally be an acceptable passport photo is not acceptable in DV lottery. And so I want to avoid people being disqualified from the draw for that reason. And many people are disqualified for that reason. So I'm working on that. So fingers crossed. ASMR. Okay, I'll Hey, Britt, DV25 winner, currently in New York. Thanks for your support and help. You're very welcome. And good luck in New York. Good choice. Although, yeah, again, it's cold. It's cold. New York sucks, really. It's nice weather for about 3 weeks in the spring and 3 weeks in the fall. Other than that, it's either too hot or too cold. But it is a fantastic city, obviously. Any 2NLs upcoming for 2025 AF23 Casablanca? I don't know, Basma, whether they are going to get in the game or not. It wouldn't be the first time that Casablanca have received 2NLs out of order. They've done that sometimes before. I'm not quite sure why. It may be that they give their capacity late to KCC. So there is a possibility of that, but I can't be sure. I can't be sure that any embassy is going to do what they did last month or is going to do what I expect, etc. There are changes. You know, Nairobi has got back in the game this month after being asleep since December of last year. So, you know, they've taken no cases all year from January through to August interviews. And for September, they've taken some cases, probably a good number of cases. We don't know the number yet, but probably, you know, in the 280, 300 range. And so, you know, that's a good final ending. But obviously that came after many months of quietness. Now, I expected or hoped that Nairobi would get in the game at some point. I hoped it would be earlier than they did. But you know, I've said before many times, I expected them to come alive again, but I couldn't be sure. And so, you know, I was right, but you know, unfortunately, I wasn't right early enough. If you see what I mean, if they'd have come alive in June, July, August, you know, we'd have had a much better result for Kenyans and other people at Nairobi. So, you know, it's just the way it is. It's part of the cruel nature of this lottery process. And believe me, it really is a cruel process at times. Sad. Okay, so let's see. Olivia says, hello, Bitsam. My name is Olivia from Rwanda. I'm DV25 winner with case number 55K. Good. Interview is scheduled in Cotonou. Good. Do you think I have a chance to attend the interview? Okay, you're current. Your interview is scheduled, and now do you have a chance to attend the interview? Well, that depends on how you get there, I suppose. I mean, are you going to go by bus? Are you going to go by car? Are you going to walk? I mean, your chances of attending your interview are entirely in your hands now. There's absolutely nothing I can say about the transportation in your country. Okay, so it's entirely up to you to attend the interview. Now, the slightly more useful question would be, how do you prepare and that sort of thing? Well, make sure you're properly prepared. And for me, proper preparation means reading the instructions over and over again and making sure you've got every piece of paper you could possibly need. Your interview is in September. You don't have any time at all to mess it up by going to your interview not prepared. So make sure you've got everything you think you might need. That means every document that they list and every document or every piece of information that might be helpful to your case, okay? Which includes, for example, financial support information, like an I-134 or your own savings, proof of your own savings. It includes, you know, if you've, let's say you've got one of the unusual situations, you've got a child over 21 who is covered by the CSPA. For that, you need to go prepared with the information about that. If you were divorced before, then I would be taking my divorce papers to the interview. If you had a name change, take that stuff to the interview. Whatever is specific to your case, you need to make sure you're properly preparing, okay? And that's the only thing you can do. Then, you know, your chance to attend the interview is yours, but the point is, make it so that you're successful in the interview. Don't mess it up, please. Do proper preparation. I hate to read stories, and I read them every freaking year, of someone who says, oh, I went to the interview, but I was missing this document, or I didn't have this ready, or I hadn't booked my medical because you hadn't read the instructions. those sorts of things drive me nuts. You're wasting a once in a lifetime opportunity because you couldn't be bothered to take half an hour to read the instructions. And so honestly, please don't do that. It drives me mental. Ryan says, hi Simon, my case number is 2025 51 500. It's current, but I'm still at MVC, assigned to Tunis Embassy. Do you think they're still issuing 2NLs for September? Is there a chance at this point in July? Yes. Typically, so there are about, in Africa region, there are about 680 cases in transit status. But for those cases, you would already know if you'd already received the 2NL because you would have got an email and you can check your ESC page. Now, if you look at the data that Philip provides, let me see if I can bring that up for a second. So you can see daily updates from Philip, as well as the data from Zarthisius, of course. Let me just show you this. So what he does is he scrapes the data in a similar way that that Zarthisius does that, and makes that data available for us, right? So we have the latest update, which was about 8 hours ago. He scraped this data, and it shows the list of embassies that have taken 2NLs at this point, as well as the cases that are in transit. So yeah, 628. Sorry, I messed up the number earlier, but 628 cases are in transit in Africa. Now, in transit means that KCC have sent the 2NL. The person whose 2NL it is has had an email, and if they go on their ESC page, they can see their appointment, right? We don't know in the SEAC data yet which embassy that is, because the in-transit cases don't show which embassy it's at. They simply show that the 2NL has been sent, right? Then the embassy marks that 2NL as being received, and the status changes from in transit to ready. And once it's ready, we can see which embassy that's at. But there are 628 cases out of a total of 755 that are in transit in Africa. And so I don't know where those 628 cases have gone, but you may be one of them. But so that's one point. You may want to check your ESC page, see if you've already got that. But the other point is that we say all the time, and people can't quite believe it's this obvious, but the 2NLs tend to come out in a sort of semi-alphabetical order. So you can see, as you look down the list of embassies, you can see they're roughly up until about halfway through the alphabet, okay, roughly speaking. And so there'll be some other A's, B's, C's, etc. in this 628. But for the ones that have already marked their cases as being ready, you can see that up to L, right? So you at Tunisia probably have not had your 2NL sent yet, but it could be sent on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of this week. Okay, could be as soon as that. So you just have to be a little bit patient. And we're doing pretty well, I have to say, with scheduling so far. They're roughly halfway through, and they've done 1,428. Part of that is the increase in Nairobi. Nairobi coming online and actually taking some cases, probably several hundred cases, has increased this Africa number quite a lot, and therefore gives us a chance of getting somewhere in Africa. It still won't get to the quota, no way. But at least it's better than nothing. Thank goodness Nairobi came online. Okay, so you still got a chance, Ryan. Salia, AFL, another Tunis embassy. There you go. So they're not really late. No, they can be sent until the end of the month, right? And even a few days into next month. Thanks for your smart information. You're welcome. No legal consequences for them not issuing the full 55K. No. Firstly, there isn't a full 55K this year. It's 52K. 3K of those 55 have been taken out for another visa class. But there is absolutely no consequences, no telling off, no retribution, nothing for any of the people involved if they don't reach the full number of quota. they don't have to issue all of these visas. In fact, for most years, they don't issue the full quota of the visas. It's only 2 years where we've seen them try so hard that they've actually gone over the number. That was as a direct result of lawsuits in previous years. So in DV 2020 and 21, we sued the bastards and we won. And so in 22 and 23, they were so keen to avoid being sued again, because that's a big pain in the ass for the government to be sued constantly. To avoid that, they issued more visas than the cap actually legally allowed. Then in 24, they reined that in a little bit. They still shot for the cap. They went fairly close to the cap. But in 25, DV 25, they are going to massively undershoot the cap, and nobody is going to say a damn thing to them. Nobody is going to tell them off. They're allowed to do that. Same as they were doing previous to DV 2020. If you look at the issuance numbers, they did that all the time. They were undershooting every time. Okay. Tony, I'm patiently waiting for my 2NL 54K China embassy. Do you think I have a chance there? Yep, you do. You know, we'll see. Anu, there won't be a second draw. I keep saying, and perhaps you haven't asked this question before, but I can't tell you whether there's going to be a second draw or not until I know how many people are selected in the first draw. Okay. If they've selected more than 100,000 people in the first draw, then it's unlikely that there would be a second draw. If they've selected less than 100,000 people, then there's a possibility of a second draw. There may be an increased possibility this year because of the lawsuit that I filed against the government for the UK. That might cause them to do a second draw for South America. It depends how many people have been incorrectly selected for Cuba. So that's a possibility. But other than that, we'll have to wait and see when we get the selectee numbers, which will be in the next visa bulletin in about 3 weeks' time. Okay, we'll know that in about 3 weeks' time. Ask your question then after that point. Okay. Alois. Okay. Hi Brett. Which tech qualification can qualify for H1B? Being that you're in tech and know you might have more insight. Yeah, I had an H1B, so I know. Basically, from a tech point of view, you need a technology-related bachelor's degree at the very minimum, preferably a higher degree than that, right? And when I say technology degree, it can be in bioscience, it could be in programming, etc. It's any profession where where it's considered a highly qualified professional. Okay. Now, ideally, you want some experience as well. So you want a qualification and experience, ideally. Experience counts. You can also go, it is possible to get an H1B without a degree if you've got enough experience in your profession, but it's roughly 3 years for every one of the 4 years that you spend in a degree. So in other words, you'd need about 12 years of experience at a profession, doing some job that is suitable for the H1B, but without having gained the degree in the first place. Now that's unlikely, but possible. And I've known cases, to get an H1B on that basis. So, it is technically possible, but it's rare these days. It used to be easier to get into technology without a degree. These days, you've pretty much got to have a degree. In my company, they insist on at least a master's level education, sometimes higher, to even begin to get a chance to get an interview. Okay, can they add passport? Oh, we already answered that. Hi, Simon. I'm glad to say that I'm right now in the USA with my family. Good. Your channels, YouTube, Telegram have been very helpful for us during the DV Lottery 25 process. Thanks. You're very welcome, Awa. Good luck in it, all you do. Just be prepared for the fight. The first year or two is hard. There's no other way of putting it. It's hard. Very few people come here and find, oh, that was easy. Moving to a new country is stressful. It's difficult. and you've got to be a bit humble. You've got to work hard. Sometimes you've got to work much harder than the American who's standing right next to you. It seems a bit unfair at times, but it's a worthwhile fight. And particularly for people with kids, I think you're going through all of that trouble for the kids so that they have a better upbringing, a better, safer, more affluent way of living. So good luck with all of that. Britt, what the heck is going on with Dublin and why aren't they replying to my emails? I don't know. I'm having a few people complain about Dublin. They won't reply to emails though. This is kind of, I mean, they have no real need to reply to emails from someone who is not scheduled for an interview. Okay. They can just ignore you. They don't have to reply to your emails. So, typically they will send an email something like, it's not up to us to schedule your interview, it's up to KCC, right? They pass the buck and they sort of seem to put the blame on KCC. The reality is they set the capacity, but they don't choose the cases that are scheduled. So the person answering your email may or may not know whether they've set any capacity or not. And they may just say, oh, screw it, I'm not going to answer that email. They don't have to. They don't have to do that. So I don't know. But yeah, good luck. Fingers crossed. Candy, any information from Cairo after visa bulletin? Has anyone got anyone from Cairo scheduled case number from 50 to 58? 0. No, I don't see any yet, but there are a lot of cases in transit. So I suspect Cairo probably have been scheduled, but I haven't heard from anyone to say they have or haven't. Okay. Next question. Did the winners of DV25 from the countries under the travel ban get chance because of the judge's ruling? No. I don't know what you mean, which judge is ruling. The travel ban is not blocked. The travel ban is in force. If you are planning to go to interview in August or September and you're from one of the countries that's travel banned, then you should know that you are not going to receive your visa unless you have a second citizenship / passport. You need to have another passport from another country that is not banned. If you're going to your interview, assuming that you're going to be given a visa because you're a nice person, or because you're highly qualified, or because you've got family in the States, and you think that any of those things, or any other reason, and you think any of those things are going to qualify you for a national interest exception, forget it. You're dreaming. You need to not dream. Because you're just going to be wasting your money. Now, if you can afford to waste your money and your time, then go ahead and try. Feel free. But you are wasting that money and time. And so what would be gutting for me is if people who are, for whom $330 for the interview fee would be a lot of money to lose for nothing. People like that should not be going to the interview because you're not going to make it. You're not going to be approved. It doesn't matter how much you think you deserve it. That's not the point. They meant to ban people in exactly your situation. They meant to ban people from your country, and they don't give a damn. So they're not issuing national interest exceptions. Okay, just forget it. It's not going to happen. Ryan, hope you and the family are doing well. Yes, we are. Thank you. Fellow Brit here. Any updates on the lawsuit? I'm praying for a redraw for UK applicants in August. Okay. Ryan, you should let me know which year you're in. So I did cover this a little bit earlier on. I would say that for DV25, because of the timing, August 15th is going to leave it very tight, but possible for them to contact winners from the UK for DV25 and say, hey, you probably want to go and check your ESC page. That's the sort of email they'll send. Something along the lines of go check your ESC page. It'll be a bit of an odd looking email because it will be somewhat custom. It won't be one of their standard template emails, right? So this is what could come about through the lawsuit. So they could send that. And if they send that, let's say by late August, there's time to inform people. There's time to take those DS260s and specially process those. And there's time to schedule some interviews for those people in September. there would be time for all that to happen, but it's obviously a very, very short timeline. So it's going to be, risky. Okay. It's on the other hand for DV26, it's going to be far easier for those cases. I'm very, very confident that DV26 cases are going to get help from the lawsuit for UK applicants. There's 100 and something thousand selectees for DV26. Probably there's 131,060 for DV25. We know that didn't include UK applicants. We'll have to see how many there are for DV26. But it's going to be interesting to see how exactly they handle this, and it will reveal something about the draw process as well, which I'm keen to find out. So, but anyway, hopefully a few people will be selected from the UK. We'll have to see how many there are. So no real updates other than that. I did put an update on my GoFundMe page. I've had about almost 50 people have donated. About $3,600 has been donated, which is tremendously helpful. That's really kind of people. It still leaves me with a bit of a bill. I'm going to be footing some of the bill myself, and there's one other group of people that are going to help me with that. But still, it leaves me with a bit of a dent in my finances. But so be it. It may be one thing I have said is that perhaps when people are selected, if they get their visas from the UK, perhaps those people could then go back into the GoFundMe and say, hey, they'll cover some of the costs that I spent in order to get them their visas. Right? That would be the right thing to do. But it's up to people to do whatever what they feel is right. Okay. All right, Ryan. I hope that makes sense. I'm holding off doing another UK lawsuit specific video just because there isn't very much to say, and there won't be for another 3 or 4 weeks. Okay, so fingers crossed for them. Okay, next question. I'm from Ethiopia, DV26 winner, case number less than 30K. Good, all that's good. Filled the DS260 and waiting for an email from them. So I've opened the DS260 form from entering web. Just did the printout. Any problem? No problem at all. If your DS260 says the word completed, that means it's been submitted and it's locked. If you unlock it, you have to go and ask KCC. Only they will unlock it. The embassy can also unlock it once you've been scheduled, but KCC in most cases are the ones that do the unlocking. Just going back into your DS260 doesn't unlock it. That's fine. You can review it anytime. FC Barcelona. Great, Mr. Simon. Quick question, sir. Please, from your analysis, do you see Yaounde, Cameroon to take cases up to 58K, which is my case number? Wow, 58. You're at 58K. You're going to be one of the highest cases to get current and hopefully to be interviewed. Let's have a look at that. So let's see. So let me show what I'm going to do here. This you should have seen before, and you should really be able to do this yourself. But what am I doing? Let's see. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Okay, let me just show you my screen. I'm going to go and get the file here, which says you can download the latest case numbers in each 1K for all consulates from download here. Right, big button. You can't miss it. People were missing it, and that's why Zarthisius changed it to a big button that you really can't miss. There's no excuse for missing that. Okay, so what you then get is this spreadsheet that gives you, not this one, another one, that one, that gives you all of the embassies and what case number they've taken cases up to, so we can see a couple of things from that, right? So if we scroll across to Yaounde, which is this last one here, firstly, we can see that they have taken cases in the previous visa bulletin. They took cases all the way up to 50,000, right? And we can then also get, if I ignore that one and I just do a sort of a quick look there, if I go back to this point, doesn't matter where I go, the average number of cases I can see down the bottom there is 27 cases per 1,000. right? So in order to get to 8,500, let's say, which is the 58,000, they're going to need to schedule about 27 times 8.5, right? So my math skills are not as good as they should be. So let's say 8.5, clicking with the mouse, so 229. So they'd have to get 230 interviews in order to get to the top there. Now, is that likely? So for that, we then look back at Yaounde, right? And we see how many are they taking per month, right? So in June, they took, let's have a look at this, June 17th, 20th, all of these are for the month of August, right? So we can add those up, 6, 7, 140 cases or so in June for August cases. And that got them to their limit, right? In May, though, look at this. In May, they took 276 cases in one go, and they actually took even more in early June. So they took over 300 cases in May, okay? That's what that means. And if we look at previous months, like in April, they took 189 cases. So could they take 230 cases? Yes, they absolutely could, right? They could do that. Will they do that? I don't know, right? What they can do and what they do are sometimes two different things, right? We have to be aware of that. But as well as I can imagine, based on the average number of cases per 1,000, based on the increase to 8,000 that you need, or 8,500, let's say, to the final end, there is a potential capacity at that embassy. But you'll see this week, the visa bulletin's been published last week. They're halfway through, and Yaounde, you probably will get their 2NLs probably later on this week, I would have thought. Okay, maybe Monday or Tuesday. We'll see. Okay, good luck. It's going to be a nerve-wracking one for you, that's for sure. Hey Simon, are we looking at a second batch of 2NLs at Nairobi? Very, very difficult for me to say, Patrick, whether they'll send a second batch. In December of last year, they took 421 cases, and I think they scheduled and held all of those interviews, which shows the capacity is probably around about the 300 to 400 range typically. But we don't know how much they've allocated for the month of September. They might have said, we'll take 300 cases. We don't really know, right? So first of all, we have to see how many cases they've taken. Then we have to see whether the system, right, the system in Nairobi can take more. What do I mean by the system? The system is the embassy capacity, yes, but also the medical capacity, right? What people don't understand sometimes, and Nairobi has the IOM, right? IOM in Kenya are more than happy to tell people no. They think they're a very powerful organization for some reason, and in some cases they actually are. They've told people they can't have interviews unless they've had the medical first, for example, which is bullshit. They've got no right to say that, but they have said that, and they have done that to people in the past. Which just shows me that IOM, frankly, is too big for its boots and shouldn't be acting like that, but they do, right? And the Nairobi embassy allows them to do that for some reason. Now, let's say they schedule 300 cases because Nairobi embassy say they've got capacity. Each interview lasts a few minutes, 10 minutes, let's say, with maybe another 10 minutes or 20 minutes of paperwork after the interview. So maybe half an hour times 300 interviews. Okay, so that's 150 hours of work that they're committing to for DV lottery, right? That's how they would work out that capacity. And 150 hours means they're going to put on, 1 or 2 members of staff on that, and that's part of their normal daily business. The medicals, however, take longer, right? Now, 300 interviews is something like 500 people in Nairobi, right? Not all of those people are going to be going through IOM, but a large number of them would. Some of them would go and have their medicals in other countries. And some of those 300 interviews, by the way, are to banned people, so they shouldn't be turning up for those interviews. But nevertheless, let's say that Nairobi IOM had 400 medicals to do. If each medical takes half an hour for the medical, and then another half an hour to prepare the report, that's an hour of work for each one of them. And IOM might say, okay, we're not doing 400 hours of work, to do 400 medicals, right? There are more people than, doing attending the interviews than there are number of interviews. One family with 5 kids is 7 people, let's say, attending an interview. That's 7 medicals. That could be several hours worth of work for IOM. Okay, so that's why I'm pointing out the medical capacity in the system is part of the overall capacity for Nairobi or any other embassy. Okay, and so that means that it's not entirely up to the Nairobi embassy to say what they can accept. There's also some aspect of that will be controlled by our IOM. And as I mentioned before, IOM don't give a damn about saying no sometimes. They're just able to do that for some reason. Okay, Sean says, hey, I'm 52K Africa. I've received an email that said that I'm current while I was trying to switch my embassy from Nairobi to Malaysia. Shit. Well, you're 52K. Okay, so you're 52K, Sean. I think you've emailed me at my blog as well. You left it too late to move. So yeah. Oh, hang on. While I was trying to switch my embassy from Nairobi to Malaysia embassy, so how long should I wait till Nairobi schedules my case? Nairobi won't schedule your case unless they get to like 1,000, maybe not 1,000, but they would have to do many, many more interviews. They're probably not going to get to your case, in all honesty. I wish you'd moved earlier, right? If your chances are stuck on Nairobi, and Nairobi didn't schedule interviews, I've been saying for several months that although I hoped and expected they would wake up, at some point I was saying, I think maybe 2 or 3 months ago, you need to move. If you're at sort of 50K case number, you need to move before you get current. You can't wait to get current and then try and move. That makes it a lot harder. You have to move before you become current, right? Before you become current, you can just email KCC and say, hey, I need to unlock my form. You change your address because you're living in another country, and hey, presto, your interview gets scheduled at that other country, right? It's as simple as that. After you get current, it's like an act of God in order to get your case moved. It's almost impossible. Unfortunately, you've placed all your trust in Nairobi, and now Nairobi, even though they're scheduling several hundred cases, are they going to get to 52K? Probably not, would be my guess. It's just a guess. You'll have to wait and see, but that's what's going to happen. Okay. Has DV lottery already been applied in this July 2025? Don't know what that question means. Will Trump remove the travel ban for DV visa? Probably not. Why would he remove it? He put it on there. Why would he remove it? There's no pressure for him to remove it. There's no reason why he has to remove it. Why would he remove it? This concept, some people misunderstood the whole thing and have assumed that the travel ban is going to be removed in mid-September or 9th of September or something, because that's the 90-day period when that's up, or 60 days or whatever. It's all bullshit. Nobody has said they're going to remove that travel ban. Okay, they're not going to remove the travel ban. They wanted to ban people. It wasn't put in as a temporary period of time. It's going to last some time. I should imagine it's going to be there during the majority of DV26, if not all of it. It's a problem. Hello, Mr. Britt Simon. I'm currently in contact with the Algerian embassy. My case number AF52K. My question is, do I have any hope of receiving a second letter? And is it possible for me to change embassies? Oh, you change the embassy before you become current. If you don't change the embassy before you become current, you're screwed. It's as simple as that. It's so frustrating. Now, you're Algerian. Here's the other thing. Some people think that when they're within a country like Morocco or one of these accept countries, that they are able to move their country and get out of the accept thing, right? So Morocco has a country cut off at 40,500. If your case number 45,000 or whatever, and you've moved to another embassy, you're still limited by that Morocco thing, right? I just checked. Algeria is up to 54,500. So your case, is it Stephen? Your case is current, and you're entitled to get an interview. Will you get an interview? I don't know, right? But it is. It's based on Algeria embassy, right? So I don't know whether you're going to get it or not. Okay. Sayu says, just open the DS260 form from their entrant print. Oh, we've already answered that one. Yeah. Please, any update on Abu Dhabi concerning DV25 2NLs? No update. It's not one of the countries on the list that I've seen so far, but we have to wait and see, right? Hello, what are the chances of winning DV lottery in Africa after 33 countries banned? Okay, firstly, 33 countries are not banned. Okay, from a DV lottery point of view, 19 countries are currently banned, not 33. There's a second list that is being circulated where countries have got some work to do to comply with the Trump administration's desires to avoid putting them onto the ban, right? So there may be some additional countries added to the ban. We don't know, right? We don't know that yet, but they're not currently banned. There's only 19 countries currently banned, right? In terms of winning DV lottery, whether you're banned or not, you're going to be able to enter the lottery. You're going to be able to be selected for the lottery. You'll be able to attend an interview for the lottery. You just won't get your visa interviewed and you won't be able to travel, right? You can pay the interview money. You can pay for the medical. You can do all of that, but you can't get the visa. That's what being banned means, right? So you will find that people are being selected for banned countries in DV 2027, right? If the ban stays in place, that's what will happen. It's not the same as ineligible. It just means you're under a travel ban, right? And so they do still select those countries, those selectees. And to me, it's doubly cruel, but that's what they do. Okay. Your chances of winning from a non-banned country have not changed at all because they'll still be selecting all the other countries, right? Selectees from other countries. Your chances of getting, if you're in a non-banned country, your chances of getting scheduled for an interview increase a little bit because some banned people will simply not turn up for their interviews, right? So there is that benefit, but not an increase in chances. Okay. Okay. Hey, Britt, at last Nairobi has done something. Should we expect to announce for 50K and above? I don't, Peter. I don't expect Nairobi to get that far. There would be, if we look at the number of, if you look at the number of cases per 1,000 for Nairobi, if you extrapolated that out to 50K, it would be a huge number. Now, that number will reduce. The cases per 1,000 will reduce because of the country cutoffs during the draw process. That's one of the reasons there's a drop in density, case density in the charts when we see the charts. So there would be a reduction in the number of cases per 1,000. But even with that, it's still an extraordinary ask or expectation for them to get to 50K. I think that's going to be too high. Don't think they'll get there. We've seen some heroic things from embassies before. There was a year when, I think it was 23 or 22, when Kathmandu took 980 interviews in a single month, which was clearly extraordinary. So Nairobi is a big embassy. It's not that they can't do that. In fact, if they would, put some more days of effort into the interviewing during the month of September, they probably could get to, 800, 900 interviews. Will they do that? I doubt it, for the reasons I was explaining earlier, because of the number of people that would mean would go for medicals. But we'll see. Do you still feel British, Simon, or are you now a real American? Great question. I don't know. Ask me on different days. I'll tell you this. I traveled to Europe recently, and I've got a drawer here where I keep my passports, and I've got two passports, obviously, a British one and an American one. Without even thinking about it, I reached for my American passport only, and I took my American passport to Europe, which was a bit weird because I actually went through London. So I turned up with my still somewhat British accent, turned up in Heathrow Airport to go through immigration as an American, and then went to Spain and turned up there as an American instead of being European. But I don't know. Does that make me more American? I don't know. I would struggle living in England now. I think I would struggle there, apart from the weather, which was dreadful. I would just struggle with some of the things. And we've been thinking about retirement recently. So where do you retire? Do you retire in America? Do I stay where I am? Those sorts of questions. And those things are probably somewhat relevant to the question of, do you feel American? Do you feel British? Do you feel European? My wife is from Spain, so we can go and live in Spain, for example, in retirement, very cheaply, very happily. I could retire tomorrow with no problem at all. It would be very, very easy to retire in Spain, for example, or in the UK, or in most parts of America. Where I live is an extremely expensive place to live, right? So, for example, my house, the property tax on my house, which you have to pay property tax whether you've paid off the mortgage or not, doesn't make any difference. You pay property tax, and this year's property tax on my house was $18,000, right? So $18,000, that's $1,500 a month, just for property tax, and that's going up every year, right? When someone, a plumber turned up to my house to do some work the other day, as soon as they get a look at my house and they know the area and they know how much my house is worth, the rates go through the roof. So I paid $920 or something for a guy to come out and clear out a pipe in my plumbing. And I'm quite sure that guy elsewhere, even in the city where I live, probably wouldn't have charged so much. I live in kind of a nice house and expensive area and so on. But this area is an expensive place to live. I just went out. There's some funny things to tell you, Stefan. Since you're French, you'll enjoy this. There's two French patisseries in my town, and I went to one of them this morning. I was so horrified by the prices in that one. I thought, there's no way. I thought that would be the cheaper of the two. I said, there's no way. I had to buy my wife a whole bunch of pastries for an open house. She's selling a home. She's a realtor, and she wanted a bunch of pastries for an open house. So I thought, okay, I'll get some French pastries, right? Go in there, and the prices were through the roof. Like a single macaron, $3, right? A plain croissant, I think they were, in the first place, it was like $6, $7 or something per croissant. So I went to the other place, which I thought would be slightly cheaper. Plain croissants there were $5, and a pain au chocolat was $6, right? A little baguette in the first place was like $12, right? So just everything around here costs more money. So as I think of retirement, round here, I need something like an income of something like $150,000 to $200,000 simply to just live, right? Now, that's quite a lot of money. If I went and lived in Spain, I could get by with $3,000 a month, maybe $4,000 a month, live pretty nicely. If and I'm assuming that I buy a house and own a house outright. I'm not talking about paying rent. I'm just talking about to live. I could live quite nicely in Spain, the both of us, for $3,000 or $4,000 a month. Whereas in America, I need $15,000 a month, roughly. Or to be in the area where I am now. Now, if I could move to Florida, for example, then yeah, that would be cheaper, but I'd have to be living in Florida, surrounded by morons. I don't really want that, right? So, you have to weigh that up, and figure out where you want to be. So, yeah, It's a good question, Stefan. Thanks for that. Sorry for everyone else that wants to talk about DV lottery, but this is kind of DV lottery. It's like over time you become more Americanized, and I've known a lot of people over the years that have had plans, for example, just work in America for a few years and then go back home. But after a while, you realize that home maybe is now America, and if it's America, what does that mean? Are you going to continue to live and pay the high property tax and other taxes and so on, or are you going to move to some place where you can live more simply? Don't know. Anyway, Mr. Ratchet, just wanted to say thank you for bringing attention to the DV lottery issue for GB entrance. We was very disappointed when the rumors said none were selected. Great to see action taken. Thank you. You're welcome. Yeah, it's 100% sure. What they did was they have a program where they have to turn on a switch whenever there's a country either made ineligible or eligible. They have to turn on or off a switch, right? And so in DV25, the only country that they had to add to the list was the UK, GB entrance. If you look at the instructions, it makes clear that's the only country that was added. Then in DV26, the only thing they had to do was inactivate Cuba. Now, I know they didn't inactivate Cuba, and I'm 99.9% sure they didn't activate GB in 25, because GB wasn't activated in 25. It wasn't activated in 26 either, because it continues. They just set those switches on a year-to-year basis for the changes, right? And they didn't make those changes clearly in 25. They certainly didn't in 26. I've now got categoric proof that they have Cuban selectees, so that's proof they didn't make the changes for 26. And so it's just obvious. It's very, very obvious what they did wrong. They're going to have to admit it. There's no way they can come back and say, we're wrong. There's just no way they can say that. In the lawsuit, they're going to have to provide us with the number of entrants there were for the UK, for GB. And then they'll also have to give us other data so that we can calculate what the chance should have been for UK entrants and somehow construct a draw process for the UK entrance. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see that. But yeah, it's definitely is right. I must admit, I feel bad a little bit. There was a guy telling me this rumor a long time ago, and I was at first like dismissive. I think it was probably, I don't know, I want to say something like October or November of 24. I think he was telling me on my blog. There's this guy who kept on coming back and saying, hey, I don't think there was any entries from the UK, and I kept saying, there's entries, it's just a mistake on the visa bulletin, don't worry about it, there's got to be entries. And then month after month I'm not hearing about GB entries, and month after month we then start seeing the official data, and hey presto, there's no UK visas being issued. It's like, oh shit. So about February of February of this year, I then did a FOIA request to try and get that data, and they've not answered that FOIA request. So I tried, that was me trying to alert them. I've tried Twitter posts. I've tried contacting the president of AILA, who have meetings with the government all the time. I emailed Director McIntyre just before we sued him saying, hey, I'm about to sue you. This is going to be costly for me and a big pain in the ass for you. Maybe you should just contact me and we can discuss this, right? I emailed the dude and he chose to ignore my email. And in fact, I got one of the KCC ladies saying, hey, we're going to send this through to the, oh no, first of all, they gave me an email that said that I was a moron, sort of thing, you know, that don't worry, the official numbers are published every year, blah, blah, blah. And I emailed back and saying, you don't want to ignore this email, right? You need to send this through to your boss because clearly there's been a mistake made and he's about to get served with papers, which he now has been served with papers for a lawsuit. So you don't want to ignore this email, please. Get him to contact me. And he ignored me. So, you know, I tried my damnedest to try and get this sorted out without the lawsuit. And in the end, and I ummed and ahed about the lawsuit because I knew the lawsuit was going to cost me personally a lot of money. for no personal gain. But in the end, I decided, discussed it with my wife, that even if it cost us a few $1,000s, it was worth doing because it's the right thing to do. So, and then of course started getting hate emails from other people in other countries saying, "Hey, you're going to ruin it for everybody." And every time something goes wrong, like after the last visa bulletin, I got someone emailing me say, "This visa bulletin is low because you've sued them." I'm like, get real. There's lawsuits all the time, against the government. They have them all the time. So no, it's not my fault. Anyway, there you go, Mr. Ratchet. Another diversion there. Let's answer some more questions. Hello, Mr. Brett DB. Winner got 2NL for 11th September, family of 5. Good. Will the sealed envelope be one or separate for each applicant? And do we need to travel at the same time? You should get different envelopes for different people. You don't all have to travel at the same time. The only rule is that the principal winner, the person who won the lottery, has to enter either with the other family members or before them, right? So some people want to send one of the family ahead, who will then work, maybe save money, and pay for flights for the rest of the family to join. That's fine, as long as that person is the principal winner. But it must be the principal winner that enters first, or with the other family members. That's the only rule. But yeah, you can then travel at different times, as long as everybody travels before the expiry date on their passport. Okay. So I'm from Sri Lanka. Any chances for 2NL? My case number is 24,000. What year? I can't tell you. Now I've got to go and kill an angel because of you, Kirthi, because you don't tell me which year, right? You also didn't tell me which region, but obviously I know because you say Sri Lanka, but which year? But if it's DV25, no, you have no chance. It's over. Lawrence, finally Nairobi is back in the game, but maybe unfortunately they just reach maybe case number 35K. Yeah, that's roughly where I'm thinking they're going to get to. We've only got rumors to go on right now, so I'll wait until we've got the data to see where they actually got to. But maybe they can add a few cases later on this month, hopefully. We'll see. Have a question. Is there a problem if not fill the form of security service after entry? Yes, there's a problem. It could be a problem for your citizenship later on. Okay, so it's. I assume you're talking about your national service, the selective service. It's not called security service. Selected service. If you're a male, aged 26 or less, you have to register with the selective service website once you've entered the USA, right? Everybody needs to do that. All Americans need to do that as well. So you have to do that. And if you haven't done that, when you come to naturalize later after a few years, that can be a problem. So if you're if you're female or if you're over 26, it's not a problem. But if you're under 26 male, yeah, you've got to do that. Okay. Tendong, please help. I wrote to KCC to inquire about my case, and I was told that I have submitted a valid and complete DS-260. What does that mean? It means your DS-260 is processed. Okay. Now, you haven't told me your case number, region, or year, or anything. So I can't tell you what else it means, but it means that when they say valid and complete DS-260, that means they've processed it. They've finished all the background checks and that sort of thing. Okay. It does not mean, by the way, that your DS-260 is accurate or complete in the way I would consider it complete. It's a misleading statement because it doesn't mean that you've done it right. You could have left off all the social media, for example, and then that's a problem. But they'll still come back at you and say you've got a valid and complete DS-260. It's really bad wording, but it basically means that they've processed the information that you've provided and they've assumed it to be accurate, but they haven't checked whether it's accurate or not, and they haven't checked whether you're telling the truth or not, right? You see the problem? Okay. Okay, let's see if there's any good questions here. About an hour. So, If someone made a mistake in social status before winning, can he fix it in the DS260? What do you mean social status? Social status? What does that mean? Do you mean marital status? If somebody, it depends what the mistake is, and almost certainly, if you're talking about marital status, those are extremely serious. If you said you were married but you're not actually married, or if you said you're single but you're actually married, those will lead to disqualification. In fact, if you say you're single and you're actually married and they get proof of that, then 100% of the time you will be disqualified. If you say you're married but you're actually single because you don't have a legal marriage from your country, that will normally lead to disqualification. Not every time, but normally. Okay. So, you know, you've got to be very, very careful if you mean marital status. Sadly, no chance of getting OC 1900 at this point. Not for DV25, no. It's over, I'm afraid. When's the last day for winners of DV25 to physically enter the United States? It's 6 months after the medical, right? So there will be people who will interview, let's say, as late as September 30th, right? Those people don't have to enter by midnight on September 30th. Some people think that that's not true at all. There will be people who interview late in September who, let's say, they do their medical in mid-September, roughly, right? They will have until March of 26 to enter because it's 6 months after their date of medical, okay? So there'll be still people entering from DV25 in March of next year. That's the way it works, okay? Abdul Rahman, do I think there will be a redraw for DV26? I've already answered that. But you then go and say, considering the massive country ban this year, again, let me just connect the dots to you. I've explained both these things in this live. The people banned doesn't affect the number of people being drawn, etc. So they will not draw more people because of the people banned, right? The travel ban could be taken away. It could be, could be removed, and then those people suddenly become eligible again. So if there are a lot of people travel banned, it simply means there's more chance for higher case numbers and more chance that there would be an underfilling in the year. That's what it means. It doesn't mean they're going to add more people to the draw. Okay. Algeria, the sent 2.0 up to 48,450. Is there any chance to get 49,500 on the second wave? Maybe. I'll have to wait and see, right? Cotonou has not sent any 2.0. Olivia made a mistake with typing. He was scheduled for chances. He was asking for chances of 55k being scheduled. Please help analyze chances of 54 and 55k in Cotonou, Benin. Have a look, Waguti. I explained how that's done, right? I didn't realize he'd made a mistake. I thought he was genuinely saying he's been scheduled. Let's have a look. Let's have a look at the spreadsheet. I've got it open. So let's have a look. Okay, so let's have a look at a couple of things. So if we look at Cotonou for a start on here, right? And we can see, roughly speaking, how many cases they take per month, right? So in March, they took 30. In April, they took 30. In May, they took 60. In June, they took 40. So I would expect them to take something like 40 to 60 in September. They should normally take a little bit more. They're very consistent, right? They've always taken, from January, February, March, April, they've always taken some number of cases and they've always maxed out. Now, what has that done in terms of getting them to, where's my cases per thousand? If we look at Africa, like where have they got to, with that sort of number of cases? Cotonou. So with that 30, 40 or 60 per month, they have managed to get all the way down to, they were current, right? They were up to date. They were not backlogged. These 4 cases and so on. By the way, do you notice something here? For Cotonou, in the beginning of the year, let's say the beginning of the number range, up to about 34,000, their average is 7.61 cases, right? In the later part, if we look above, let's look above 40,000, there's a reduction. Okay, now that means that someone who is going to Cotonou Embassy is part of the country cutoff reduction in density, because the number of people after 40,000 per 1,000 is more like five and a half, right? So it's dropped by a couple, and that's only that high because of that one blob of data, 14 people in that specific number range. It's kind of bizarre, but anyway. So what would it mean for them to get to, they're at 40, yeah, so let's say 5,000 more. So if they got to, let's say 8,000 more, if they did 8,000 more at an average of 5 cases per 1,000, right? Or let's call it 6 cases to be a little bit more, more cautious, and 8,000 more cases, right? That's 48. Is that doable for Cotonou? Yes, it is. It's doable, right? So I would expect, just an expectation, there might be a few people here that need to be filled in. There might be a few sort of interviews for people in the 40 to 50,000 range that come through to fill up those numbers a little bit. But I would expect Cotonou to get pretty much to the 58.5, right? I would hope so. Now, have they? You're saying they haven't sent any 2NLs yet. So we'll wait and see, right? We'll have to wait and see whether they do that or not, Baguti. All right. Hello, Mr. Spritz. The case number is AF35 from Nairobi. Case is currently showing as MVC. So you're not in that first batch of interviews, right? They've already sent out a batch of interviews. Will they send out more? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I have no information. Case number is AF 2026 AF 13150. Will they do interview chance? What's the possibility month that they do it? Okay. Dushim, I don't know your embassy, but you've got a very low case number. So, you could be interviewed as early as later this year, October, November, December. What will happen is the first visa bulletin of the month tends to be a pretty high number. They might go Africa 15,000, for example, right? So the first 15,000, and everyone will get excited, and everyone will get their calculators out and say, hey, 15,000 in the first month, my case number is 60,000. It's going to be 15,000 the next month, and the next month, and the next month. I'll be in January, right? That's what people do. That's not how it works. But every year I see people doing that sort of stupid math. But that's what people do. Okay. But anyway, so what it does mean is for you, you'll probably become current the first month, maybe the second month. And then it's just a question of whether your embassy is taking cases and whether your DS-260 is processed or not by that time. And if your DS-260 was submitted early in May, then you've got a good chance of it being processed by October interviews, right? That's how it works. Would Trump policy affect this visa? My wife is Indonesian. She's a nurse. Trump can certainly affect DV lottery by travel bans, right? He has done. Of the 19 countries banned, there's 12 countries banned and 7 countries partially banned. But from a DV lottery point of view, all those 19 countries are banned. So yeah, he can affect DV lottery, unfortunately, in that way. Olivier, yeah, okay, we just discussed that, Olivier. So, Diaz, what's your expectation for a second wave of 2NL for Algeria, and why have they got only 90 interviews for the first wave of 2NLs? I don't have an expectation of what they're going to get next. And was it 90 straight? 90 sounds like a cap. Where is it? I want to see Philip's numbers. Algeria 89 plus 1, 90. Yeah, it was exactly 90. When you see round numbers like this, when an embassy gets 30 or 50 or 70 or in this case 90 2NLs, it means that they set the capacity at 90. In this case, they set it at 90, and KCC were able to fill up that complete set, right? Sometimes you'll see an embassy that get, let me just choose another one here, BKK got 34 interviews, right? They didn't set their capacity at 34. They probably set their capacity at 40 or at 50. And there were only 34 cases that needed interviewing, right? And so we get this random sort of odd sounding number, and ATA took 63. A man took 26, right? So when you see odd numbers like that, it means that they had more capacity than they had interviews. When you see a round number, typically what that means is that that was the capacity that the embassy had, and they actually had more people waiting for interviews, which, to your point, is why there are still some people waiting for interviews. Now, will they increase the capacity from the 90 they've set, or will they say, our capacity is 90? I don't know. I have no idea about that. I don't have any inside contact at that embassy or any other embassy that I can call and say, hey, can you squeeze a few more in? Or are you going to squeeze a few more in? I don't know. Okay. So there you go. Similar question here from Harrison from Nairobi. Again, I don't know whether they're going to take more or not. Hi, Mr. Simon. Sorry for asking many questions. I'm AF 50,900 from Yaounde. Haven't received a 2NL. What may be the issue? Well, you're going to have to be patient, right? Yaounde alphabetically sorts at the end, and so they're in the second half of 2NLs they're going to be sent. They've sent up to about halfway through so far of the embassies, alphabetically speaking. And so Yaounde is going to be in the second half. You just have to be a bit more patient, okay? Relax. Should be fine. We have 11 school years, but skipped 1 year. After 9th grade, moved to 11th grade. Have bachelor degree. Worked as manufacturing engineer for 6 years. For 1.5 years, work as project managers. Do I qualify? You probably qualify with everything you said there. The the school years is not important. The number of school years is not important. It's the level you reach. Okay. Having said that, there are some countries which have which allow people to go into universities really before they should be going to universities, which speaks to the quality of university in that country. It's not great universities, to be honest. But anyway, in your particular case, you got to a level of education that allowed you to go into a university degree for your bachelor's. Then you worked as a manufacturing engineer. That's good from a work experience point of view. And you've been a project manager for 1.5 years. By the time you interview, maybe you'll be you'll be in the job for longer than that. So you're probably qualified for education and work experience. Either way, you're qualified. Okay. More says 2025 AF 18K Nairobi Embassy. Really happy. Finally got to now. Thanks for always guiding us, Simon. My interview is mid-September. Awesome. Good luck with that. Please do prepare well. Okay. There's no time to make a mistake. You don't have time to be put on 221G. So you need to go properly prepared. Please do read the instructions, okay? Just in addition to my UK lawsuit question, says Ryan, myself and my partner are applicants for 26. Good. Thanks for all your help. It's highly appreciated. Okay, so you've got 2 chances in DV26. Your chance of selection, by the way, in a typical year in Europe is about 1 in 100. About 1%, and I usually say that as saying 1 in 100 years, because you only can enter one time, and so in theory you'd have to enter 100 years to get the chance. However, my wife and I entered 2 years, and we were selected the second year. It can happen on the first year, it can happen on the 10th year, it can happen never, right? It's all possible. It's just your chance is 1 in 100 every single year that you enter, right? It's about that chance. So anyway, good luck, Ryan. You stand to benefit from the lawsuit. So fingers crossed for that. Samantha says, another one, Britt. Contacted KCC about my DS260 and was told, as per their records, I submitted a complete and valid DS260. Does that mean it's processed? Yes. Answered that question earlier on for someone else. Yes, it means that's processed. Last one, Mr. Britt. Doha Embassy seems to have sent 2 emails for August interviews as per Zarthisius data. Any hope for September ones? We'll have to wait and see. TOH, no, I don't see them on the list of embassies that we know have got 2 NLs so far, but we'll see. Okay. If I'm selected, sorry, I'll be sorry. That's officially. I'll be sure to come and deliver you a good pint. Thank you. Also, pay the remainder of any fees you've had to take out of your own pocket. You won't want to pick up the whole bill, Ryan. Believe me, you won't. This would not be possible without you. Well, let's hope you win, Ryan. That would be amazing if you and your other half could win. By the way, did you say she's a girlfriend? You and your partner. Okay, you say your partner. Male or female, either way. Make sure you're legally married. If one of you gets selected, you immediately get legally married. And as long as the marriage is legal in the country wherever you are, then you're good to go. You can both benefit, right? So yeah, go for it. I hope you get selected. You got 2 chances out of the. It's going to be awesome. All right. Hey there, AF36K. My husband adjusted his status. Me and the kids are in Ethiopia. Do you think we can make it? Okay. Oh man, your husband adjusted his status. Did he do the I-824? There's a process called follow to join. I'm hoping I'm probably going to end the live in a few moments, but I'm hoping that you've followed the process. If you haven't, you need to come to BritSimonSays.com and start asking me that question. Basically, when he adjusted status, when your husband adjusted status, he should have filed a form called the I-824, which is the follow to join process. And then he should have arranged for you to have an interview at your local embassy. Okay. Sometimes during the adjustment to status process, they can actually help with that. They can actually contact the embassy and so on. So if he's done the right things, then it should be good, right? But he has to have filed that process, the I-824, follow to join, for you to get your interview. I hope he's done that right. If you're not sure, contact me on the blog and let's talk about that. And I can guide you through what you have to do. Okay. Please, your best case scenario prediction for Ghana. How can I predict that? I mean, I don't know. I have no idea. What can I say about Ghana? I'd like to see Ghana return to the days. Well, here's 2 things. They used to interview a lot of people, right? They would have a lot of entries. They would interview a lot of people. They had a very, very high rejection rate because they had a very high fraud rate, right? In recent years, much fewer cases have been interviewed, but they've had a much better issuance rate. They seem to have been more patient with people with documentation and that sort of thing. And perhaps there's less fraud. I don't know. But anyway, so I'd like to see them return to the high volume, but I would not like to see them return to the high rejection. So, we'll see. In terms of this year, I don't know. I'm hoping they will do a good job. Okay, let's take a couple more questions. Couple more questions and we'll call it a day. From Nepal KTM Embassy, by the way, I hope they do 900 interview in a month in 26 too. I hope they don't, Tide Gaming. What that means, if they have to take 980 interviews in a month, it meant that they had screwed up some other part of the year, right? What they should do is they should be working on every single month so that they don't make the last minute stressful situation of having 900 interviews in a month and everybody's getting panicky and everything else. They shouldn't be doing that. They should be issuing more visas earlier in the year. And actually, in DV25, frustratingly, that's what the government had done broadly throughout the system. They were ahead on issuances this year. They could easily have reached the cap if they had simply, in the last 3 or 4 months of the year, if they had simply scheduled a reasonable number of people. They didn't move the visa bulletins fast enough. They didn't schedule enough people, therefore, and they left too much work to be done for the last month. so that it is now impossible, literally impossible, for them to meet the cap. Can't be done. There's not enough people to be scheduled. So, and there's not enough capacity in the system anyway, even if they did schedule all the people. So it's frustrating. They were so close to having a really good year, and they screwed it up at the last minute, and then now they've just wasted a bunch of visas. Very frustrating. I'd like to be in a small room with the people who managed to screw this up this badly. But anyway. Hi, Simon. I never expect my results. Any chance I can get my 2NL? My number is AS 2025 147. No, you're above the visa bulletin, right? Yeah, no chance. You're above the final number for the visa bulletin, which means you've got no chance. It's not going to change. That's the final word. Sorry about that. Okay. Hi, do you think it's still possible that it is possible to transfer case 2025 EU 24/8 to Africa, Egypt? And can I still get an appointment, or is it still cut off at 23K? Yeah, use it. So yeah, no, it's still cut off at 23K. It doesn't matter where you go. Like if you move your Europe 24,000 case to an African embassy, you don't get to see 58,500 as being your regional cutoff. It doesn't work like that. Those cutoffs are the same for the regions, no matter where in the world you're interviewed. Okay, sorry, Anya, it's over for you. That's the bad news. Okay, just to know, Ethiopia and 11 counters, I think you mean countries, are undergoing to be banned. So unless they are banned list, 60 days has been given. I think we have hope to proceed forward. God bless you, dear. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens with those additional countries, whether additional countries are banned or not. We don't know. Hello, Brit. Is it over for DV25? Case number is AF59K. Yes, it's over. It's over. It's not going to change. Yusuf finally caught a live stream. That's good. Hello, my name is Robert from Uganda. If I don't have a family, can I use my brother's family? What the hell? Can I use my brother's family? What the hell do you mean, Waswa? No, you can't use your brother's family. When you're entering the DV lottery, and as you process the DV lottery, it's extremely important. This will probably be my last word. It's extremely important that you are honest and tell the truth. You cannot claim to be married if you're single. You cannot claim to be single if you're married. You cannot claim to have your brother's children are your children unless you've adopted those children at least 2 years earlier. Okay, you cannot claim that kid that you've been looking after because his mother died years ago. You cannot claim that child to be yours just because you've been looking after them, or godchildren, or any other bullshit. You can't do that, right? So I'm sorry to be harsh about this, but you've got to understand you have to be truthful in this process. And claiming that your brother's family are your family is not okay. That's not truthful. You should know that, right? I understand when I tell people that they're liars. Some people get very offended about that because they don't see these statements they make, inaccurate, incorrect statements. They don't see them as lies. But they are lies. They're lies, and it's fraud. If you tell the U.S. government that these kids are your kids and they're not even your kids, that's fraud, and it's a very serious crime. You can't do that, right? You have to be careful. Okay, everybody, we'll call it a day. Thanks for joining me today. Do me a couple of favors. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel. That's important to me. I'm now at 93,000 followers or something on YouTube, and the pennies dropped that I might get a little picture for my wall with a YouTube thing on it, and I kind of like that. I don't know why. I've been doing this for years. I do it without pay or anything else, but call me vain. But I'd love to have that little thing on my wall. So at 100,000 subscribers, that's what I get. So I'd like that. So if you can do me a favor and get me some more subscribers, I'd be appreciative of that. But do also please make sure you follow on. From your point of view, you need to get good information. And I can tell you for a fact, there are sources who might sound credible, running YouTube channels or running dopey web pages or whatever. They might sound credible. They might sound extremely confident in what they say, but they talk bullshit. They really do. They're just, nonsense speakers. So don't listen to those other people, please. It will negatively impact your chances. So there you go. That's my couple of requests. All right, everybody. Hope you have a great day. Bye-bye now.